NetsBoy, so let's hear what he has to say. His name is NetsBoy, he thinks the world is all over when the Nets just can't play.
What up, Net fans? NetsBoy here, bring your latest in your Brooklyn Nets news. All right, so here we go. The final stretch of games is among us. We've got 23 games left of the regular season. About a quarter of the season is left. And the Nets, as we know, are currently the A seed at 31-28. So we're going to spend this episode talking about what I believe this Nets team is capable of doing moving forward and what I think could happen. Because, look, they got to climb these standings, okay? The Nets cannot let themselves be in the play-in tournament. I'm not afraid of the play-in tournament with this Nets team, but you just don't want to be in it. It's extra games and extra stress you got to put on your players, and we know Nets need health. And, you know, so to me, the goal of these last 23 games is obviously to get back on the court healthy with all the players and build some chemistry, and more importantly, get to at least that 6 seed. So that's what they've got to do. Now, before we start talking about that, let's just talk about some of the events that have transpired over the last week or so. As we know, the All-Star game is over. All the All-Star festivities are over. Patty Mills did not win the three-point contest. I guess he technically finished what's considered fourth, right? He was the last player to not make the finals three. At least he didn't embarrass himself, which is always good. You don't want Nets to embarrass. You know, all the All-Star festivities were what they are. Something's good, something's bad, blah, 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 blah. I don't really care too much about the All-Star game, especially when there's no Nets in it. If there's Nets in it, then I usually love it. So that's why I care about the three-point contest. But if there's no Nets involved with any of it, I'd kind of just like, I'll watch it, have it on in the background while I'm doing other things. So there's not much to say about the All-Star festivities. But like I said, so that's that. But then the biggest news coming out of the All-Star break is the acquisition of Goran Dragic through the buyout market. Now, there was speculation that Dragic was going to come to the Nets. It was between the Nets, the Bucks, the Lakers, the Clippers, basically every team that's supposed to be championship aspirations. And, there were some rumors about it after he got traded to San Antonio from Toronto. The Spurs bought him out, and he became a free agent. And I'm not going to lie, I didn't really see this exactly coming. I know there was speculation, but in my mind, I kind of thought that, Sean Marks was kind of like set with their roster. Now, they're like, hey, after we made the trade and got Ben Simmons, Curry, and Drummond, we're pretty much set. But I think what Sean Marks did is he looked at Goran Dragic and just realized that this is an upgrade over what we've got in the point guard position. And this is a guy that has a great relationship with Steve Nash. Played as Steve Nash's backup back when Nash was with Phoenix. As a rookie, he played behind Nash. And I think Sean Marks said, look, this guy's not the same Goran Dragic he was, years ago. I mean, he's 35 years old. He's not the same type of scorer he once was, but he's still a good player, and he's an upgrade. And, of course, in the Nets signing him, they had to let somebody go, and this time it was Javon Carter, which a lot of people wanted him to be the guy to go when the Nets did the trade and brought in Drummond, Curry, and Simmons. I'm a little shocked, but at the same time, when I look at it, it makes sense. I'm shocked the Nets let Carter go because Carter was signed through next year. So not only are the Nets taking the hit on the contract this year, they're taking a partial hit next year because I don't think the contract was guaranteed, but I'm not 100% sure on that. I'll have to look back at it. But so it's not just taking a financial hit this year, they're taking it next year. So I didn't really expect the Nets to actually part with Javon Carter. But I guess when you look at this roster, you say, well, what player would the Nets try to get rid of? And you're not going to get rid of James Johnson at this point because since you got rid of DeAndre Bembry and James Johnson can do a bunch of little things really well, all the little things well, excuse me, you can do all the little things well, you're kind of like, you're not going to get rid of him. You're not going to get rid of a player that's already been established on this team. Like, honestly, it's crazy to say Blake Griffin made the most sense to be the player to get rid of because, he's on a veteran minimum contract. He's pretty much going to be out of the rotation now with Drummond. So you're kind of like, why not get rid of Griffin? But Sean Marks wasn't going to get rid of Blake Griffin. He was part of what they had last year, and he's still a good depth piece and veteran. So I guess when you take a step back, it makes the most sense. So the Nets let Javon Carter go. So thank you, Javon Carter, NetsBoy salute thing. Guy never really had a chance to really establish himself with this team. He actually was playing pretty well down the stretch of these last couple games. So it is kind of like unfortunate that now when he's starting to play well, the Nets let him go. But it is what it is. And I think I read that he's expected to sign with the Bucks, which is the same team DeAndre Bembry signed. So the Bucks are just like, hey, okay, we'll just keep taking all these Nets players when they let go of them. And it's going to set things up for an interesting crash course possibly with the Nets and the Bucks later on. But, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So Javon Carter's gone. And now, like I said, Gordon Dragic is in. And look, Gordon Dragic, has played sporadically this year. He's been dealing with injuries, this and that. Averaging only 8 points a game, shooting 36% from three. The numbers don't really jump out at you. And like I said, this was a guy that just 2 years ago, though, when he played with the Heat, was playing some of his best basketball, averaging over 20 points a game, 7 assists. When the Heat made it to the NBA Finals in the bubble, Dragic was the point guard and really was one of the leaders on that team. And that's the type of guy the Nets are really getting is more the leadership, the point guard depth. And that's why this makes some sense. We don't know what's happening with Kyrie. We don't. We want to believe Kyrie is going to be back at some point full time. We want to believe that. But New York City keeps dragging its feet despite the whole world basically changing their mandates and their rules and regulations. New York City refuses to. So we don't know what's going to happen with Kyrie. So bringing in Gordon Dragic, a proven veteran who's capable of providing an offensive punch, stretching the floor with the perimeter shot, and another playmaker and ball handler, he's insurance. That's what he is. He is Kyrie insurance. That's what the Nets just got when they got Dragic. Kyrie insurance in case Kyrie can't play. He can plug into the rotation. He can provide energy. He can provide shooting. He can provide veteran leadership. I like the signing. Dragic to me is better than Javon Carter. Even in his diminished state, he's better. And who knows? Maybe he'll, have this rejuvenation, kind of like LaMarcus Aldridge. LaMarcus Aldridge was kind of coming on his way down before he came to the Nets. Everyone's like, he's nothing that special when the Nets got him. And then all of a sudden, a switch like this, rejuvenation happened. The fountain of youth happened because he was in a situation where he had a chance to win a championship. And look, LaMarcus Aldridge is one of the keys to the Nets now. So maybe there's a chance that Dragic has the same type of situation that, hey, I'm on a championship team again. And maybe he cranks it up a notch. So I like the signing. It's a great depth piece. He can play on or off the ball, which is what the Nets need. And look, all things considered, this Nets team being fully healthy and everyone coming back and Kyrie being able to play, Dragic is not going to be in the rotation. He's not. He just won't be. But considering that we don't know about Kyrie and all the injuries and everything, this is a good quality piece that the Nets now have. So very happy about the Gordon Dragic signing, and we'll see how it plays out. But now, once again, we got to focus on the Nets and moving forward. So, wait a minute. Hold on there, Nets boy. Nets Talk here with your latest in your Woof Brooklyn Nets news. Nets boy, what's the matter with you? How can you possibly talk about the next games coming up and the next, games after the All-Star break without even talking about the previous games prior to the All-Star break? What's the matter with you? We're going to talk about the greatest comeback victory in the history of the Nets against the Knicks. Wow! So that's what I'm going to do because NetsBoy's a piece of crap. But before I do that, I want to show everyone, check it out. I'm official. Check it out. Nets Dog is official. There's a cute little Nets doggy jersey. It's uncomfortable. I don't like it. Every time I wear it, I'm upset. Except for the fact that it's the Nets, and then I love it.
that makes any sense. But anyway, so, yeah, the Knicks game, that's what I'm going to focus on. The last 4 games for the Nets, they managed to win 2 of those games, including a great win against the Kings, and that Knicks game was incredible. Did you see Cam Thomas just take over in that fourth quarter? Take over! It wasn't even close. He just said, you know what? It don't matter that I'm a rookie. It don't matter that we were down by 28. It don't matter if we're at Madison Square Garden and against the Knicks and there's all these so-called Knicks fans. He said, let me take over this game. The whole team played hard. There was great performances. We got to see how good this team could be with Curry and Drummond. Loads of energy, loads of fun, and it was a great 28-point comeback victory on the Knicks of no less. Wow! Great win. Happiest moment of my little doggy life so far, watching that. And it just goes to show you that this Nets team, without that piece of crap, James Harden, this Nets team is capable of so much more. Whether they're fully healthy or not, they play hard, and they're aggressive, and they all want to be there. So, great win. And it just goes to show you that both the Nets are legit and the Knicks are a joke. Okay, that's it. I'm going to wrap this up because I'm getting uncomfortable. So, back to you, Nets boy, you dumb human. Nets dog. Signing off. Okay, that's enough. I'm done.
Back to me. 31-28, 8th seed in the East. Got to make it to the 6th seed. We all kind of already addressed that. To me, the key for the Nets these last 23 games is to simply win every 2 out of 3 games. If they win every 2 out of 3 games, they will be 15-8 the last 23 games, and that would put them at 46-36. And I believe 46-36 should get the Nets the 6th seed. I think that's very doable. I think they should be able to jump the Raptors, and they really should be able to jump the Celtics. I know the Celtics have played really well of late, but in my eyes, moving forward, the Nets should be able to jump those 2 teams and get to the 6th seed. I don't know about the Bucks. I strongly doubt the 76ers, Bulls, and Heat. And I don't know about the Cavs. So I think the Cavs of those 5 teams are the most likely that the Nets could pass. But to be honest, the other 4 teams, Bucks, 76ers, Bulls, and Heat, I don't think the Nets got a chance to jump those teams. But you never know. So 15-8 would put them 46-36, 6th seed. That is my expectations for this Nets team moving forward. And I think it's very doable. Because let's look objectively here. Look, the Nets schedule, especially out of the All-Star break, is not easy. Okay? They've got the Celtics. Then they've got the Bucks. Then they got the Raptors twice, the Heat, the Celtics again. So they've got some tough games against teams that, when this Nets team is not healthy, the Nets are worse than. But there's this belief now about this Nets team in the second half of the season. Look, Kevin Durant might be back by the Celtics game. Steve Nash and the Nets have not ruled that out. Now, I don't necessarily think that's going to happen, but there's an outside chance that come the Celtics game, Durant might be back. Maybe on a minutes restriction, but he might be back. And each game after that becomes more and more likely that Durant will be back. I'm saying this now. He'll be back by the Raptors game, the first Raptors game. That's my personal opinion. I believe Kevin Durant will be back by the Raptors game at the latest. And so you're looking at having Kevin Durant for the final 20 games of this Nets season. And I think that once Durant comes back, everything's going to fall into place. Like I said, it doesn't matter what's happening with Kyrie Irving. Just putting Durant on this team with what the Nets currently have is going to make this team a top 4 team in the East moving forward, in my opinion. And I think they will be a top 4 team record-wise those final stretch of games when Durant's back. But now, Ben Simmons, they're saying, is just maybe a couple weeks away. So I expect Durant back around the Raptors game. Well, I'm expecting Simmons back probably by the Heat game, 2 games after that. So now, if Ben Simmons joins in shortly after Durant joins in, with 18 games left to go. Now this Nets team, the way it's constructed, and now you drop Durant and Simmons in with all the players they traded for, Drummond, Seth Curry, the signing of Dragic, all the players they currently had on the team prior, LaMarcus Aldridge, Patty Mills, I don't know if you really use Blake Griffin, but Blake Griffin, James Johnson, the development of a player like Cam Thomas, Bruce Brown. You look at this team and you take a step back and you're like, wow. If this is the team that the Nets are going to have the last 18 games, and once again, forget Kyrie for the time being, just that team, with just Durant and the current way the Nets team is, Nets are a top 4 seed in the East. With Ben Simmons, they're top 2, easily, over that last stretch of games. Now, once again, does that mean they're going to get to the 2nd seed in the East? Probably not. They're in too much of a hole. But this is why I have this belief they should be able to get to at least to the 6th seed, if not the 5th. Because they will be having probably the 2nd best record in the Eastern Conference when Ben Simmons comes back from that point on. And then, God forbid Kyrie comes to town, and Kyrie is able to play full-time. It's a wrap. Nets will be the best team in the East. And this is what we touched upon in the last episode after the trade with the 76ers. You cannot look at this team and say to yourself, with each player returning and each situation resolving, how much better this Nets team gets. And it just gets you excited. And look, Sean Marks had a little questionnaire thing. I don't know if you saw it with Michael Grady. He talked about the Nets for like 42 minutes, and he kind of talked upon it and touched upon this, that the reality is the expectation for this team is still championship despite being the 8th seed, because we know that it's not a matter of if, but when this Nets team becomes fully healthy, how good they're going to be. The only question marks of true health is Joe Harris, who's, like we said, probably not going to come back at this point. Like it looks very doubtful. And then the status of Kyrie Irving. But once again, remove those 2 players. Just Ben Simmons and Durant with this current group of guys is more than capable of being a top 2 team in the East and more than capable of winning the East. And I don't know for sure if I can go out there and say they will win the NBA championship, but they certainly got a shot. And that is why us Nets fans are excited about these final stretches of games, the final 23 games, the final 20 games of the season. We need to see this from this Nets team. We need to see the health. We need to see the chemistry. We need to see the hunger. We need to see the cohesion. We need to see the energy. And I'm sure we're going to see it. Because the Nets got rid of that piece of crap, James Harden, who completely brought everybody down because he's a piece of crap. So I'm excited. So let's look at the next couple games for the Nets. And let's see if we can figure out maybe when this Nets can start climbing in the standings. So like I said, Celtics, Bucks, Raptors, Heat. Those are all very tough games. A lot of this is going to be based off of when Kevin Durant comes back. I still think, though, they should be able to win at least 2 of those next 5 games, if not 3 out of the next 2. The way the roster is now, 2 out of the next 3, I feel like, is kind of the best case scenario, because I don't think they'll be able to win more than 2 of the next 5 games the way the roster is now. But you drop Kevin Durant in somewhere in that stretch, this team automatically becomes the favorite, I believe, in every one of those games, except for maybe the Bucks and the Heat. So, to me, 3-2 is more than doable for the next stretch of games, and that's what they said. They've got to win every 2 out of 3. So if the Nets can win the next 3 of the next 5 games, I think they can build from there. Celtics again, Hornets, fun game against the 76ers, Knicks, and so on and so forth. So they just have to keep building, and that's what I want to see. So let me know what you guys think about everything. Let me know what you guys think about this Nets team moving forward, the Dragic signing. If you agree with me on the timetable of what we might see Durant and Simmons back, and if you're just as optimistic as every Net fan should be. I mean, I'm very optimistic. The Nets themselves are optimistic. Sean Marks is optimistic. Everyone's optimistic because, I mean, it looks like this team is going to come together nicely in the next week or so. So let's see what happens. you know, I don't want to be that negative right now. I want to think positive. So keep your eyes open for the next NetsBoy episode. And let's get ready for a fun final month of the season. And let's keep our fingers crossed that the Nets get this together and start climbing the standings. So until then, this is NetsBoy signing off.
When the